Entrepreneurship in Germany in 2015. So let's get started with a little bit about myself. As we can see, I got a strong background in the financial industry as well as entrepreneurship, which will help me guide you through this presentation. Looking at Germany after the unification, we can see that Germany has prospered over time. Germany is considered to be one of the strongest economies in the world that is innovation driven, but even a country like that still has problems with the entrepreneurial environment. Okay, so let's look at what the GEM experts think about Germany's entrepreneurial environment. Based on expert opinion, Germany has a lot of areas that we need to improve in, but this only gives us one side of the picture. Alright, so if we look at Germany compared to some other nations, we can actually see a completely different picture. The German government in general provides a solid framework for entrepreneurship in Germany, but by looking at the negative aspects, we can see that the German culture is just not there where it's supposed to be. The attitude is not right, and the education system still lags behind. So let's see what's wrong with Germany's culture and attitude towards entrepreneurship. If we compare it with a country like the UK through the Hofstede dimension, we see a lot of similarities, but especially the uncertainty avoidance and long-term orientation, which were outlined by the KfW report as main measures why entrepreneurship rates in Germany are much lower. Germans just don't like risk and always want to have a long-term plan. Let's look at some more environment issues that could be of interest. Primarily speaking, the educational system and the financing side of entrepreneurship in Germany. The educational system in Germany pretty much lacks entrepreneurship completely, as well as economic teachings. If we look at the finance side, the government actually offers quite a lot of support to small businesses, but in the private and banking sector there's still room for improvement. Next, let me outline the strong support network there is in Germany for entrepreneurs. There are actually over 100 organizations on federal level, state level, as well as international level that support entrepreneurship in Germany. They pretty much provide advice, financing, grants, incubator programs, but some of them actually even provide services to foreign entrepreneurs that want to start businesses in Germany. Finally, let's see what the German policymakers are up to improve the entrepreneurial landscape in Germany. They focus mainly on areas, as I outlined earlier, finance, education and culture, on local as well as federal level. But they also have other policies that they're trying to work on or have recently implemented that promote social entrepreneurship, microfinancing, and they also really want to help out disadvantaged groups through grant schemes. In the next part of the presentation, I'm going to outline the general attitude towards entrepreneurship in Germany, which heavily depends on the environment we discussed in the earlier part of the presentation. Looking at the graphic, we can actually identify some attitude trends here for Germany. It shows us that the fear of failure keeps on decreasing, while the perceived opportunities keep on rising at a constant skill level. The UK and German GM Monitor both outlined that there is actually an improvement in German attitude towards entrepreneurship. To validate these statements, I interviewed some Germans and family members, and I asked them 3 questions. What do you think is the attitude towards entrepreneurship in Germany? Do you have what it takes to run a business? And what do you think is the scariest part about entrepreneurship? My findings were in line with the GM reports, indicating that the attitude is improving, that they have the skills, but they're still scared of failure. In this section, we're going to answer some questions concerning the focus of entrepreneurship. How, why, who, what, and where do we start up? Looking at the graphic, we can see that in comparison with the UK, we're far behind in early stage entrepreneurship activity, which can potentially be explained by the differences in environment and attitude towards entrepreneurship. In addition, need-based entrepreneurial activity is also quite high compared to the UK, which is not necessarily a good thing. Next, we should ask ourselves who starts up, and based on the GM data provided, we can actually say that the general entrepreneur in Germany is male between the age of 25 to 34 and has a university degree. The shift towards a younger entrepreneurial crowd was actually identified by the GM Monitor as a sign that there is a positive change in entrepreneurship in Germany. We need to ask ourselves, what starts up? Germany is an innovation-driven economy and should have high technology startup rates, but it doesn't compared to other countries. So that could potentially cause economical as well as entrepreneurial problems. The main areas of growth are actually personal services, commercial services, and trade. Finally, we need to ask ourselves, where do we start up? mainly in Western Germany, but Berlin is still one of the biggest hubs of entrepreneurship in the world. In the last section, we're going to try to identify the most recent and relevant research within entrepreneurship in Germany. This is hard to identify, so we used grant funding information as an indicator of what research is really relevant in Germany at the moment. What we came up with is that it kind of relates to the rest of the presentation, that actually culture, social aspects, global aspect, and education are really relevant at the moment. In conclusion, we can say that for an innovation-driven economy, Germany has very low startup activity at the moment. But it does have a favorable framework, and that's very important. It still needs to improve in certain areas like education, culture, and the attitude towards entrepreneurship. But as we saw in the presentation, it looks like there's a trend towards an improvement in the area, and that's the most important part.